When Matt and Trey released The Spirit of Christmas, they unleashed our 4 favorite foul-mouthed boys, Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny, onto the world, changing the landscape of television forever. Obviously, the boys were the stars of the short, but they weren't alone. A group of unnamed children waiting in line to see Santa Claus is also featured, as is a little girl sitting on Santa's lap wearing a distinctive pink beret. Before there was Butters, Tolkien, Clyde, Tweek, Craig, Jimmy, Timmy, or even Ike Broflowski, there was Wendy Testaburger. The on-again, off-again girlfriend of Stan Marsh, Wendy was initially used as the mouthpiece to satirize feminist issues. It also allowed the boys to navigate the intrusion of a girl in their midst and explore their prepubescent feelings of romance. But in looking at the way Wendy has been portrayed over the last quarter of a century, it's actually pretty clear that she is one of the most interesting, complex, and well-developed characters in all of South Park, even if some viewers don't always recognize that.
And that's just the kind of sexist bullcrap that's gonna keep you in the kitchen. Sit your ass down.
On the surface, Wendy seems like the token girl character of South Park. With their first major appearance in the pilot episode, Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. She's immediately established as Stan's love interest, complete with twinkling hearts around his head and an exaggerated smile when he sees her from across the cafeteria. With her comes one of the series' first repeated gags.
This is for you. Ew!
But Wendy is and always has been so much more than just Stan's girlfriend. The first season establishes her most identifiable character traits. She's unquestionably the smartest student at South Park Elementary, she's an unapologetic feminist, she's an outspoken activist, she speaks multiple languages, she's arguably the most mature character in school, if not the entire town, and she's the only person who can legitimately put Eric Cartman in his place.
What about not holding anything against the person who wins?
Well, not if it's Cartman.
But Wendy is also far from perfect. She's possessive of Stan, she's insecure about her appearance, she experiences jealousy amongst her friends, she falls into the social trappings of girl hate, and she's not opposed to throwing hands or launching a substitute teacher into the sun with the help of Iraqi soldiers when she feels threatened.
I told her, don't with Wendy Testaburger.
If you've spent any amount of time amongst South Park fans, Wendy is easily one of the most polarizing characters. She's openly hated by a very vocal part of the fan base, often the type who relate a little too closely to Cartman. Just recently, this tweet from Trayfon pointed out that Wendy placed 95th on Ranker's most hated/annoying characters list, where users could vote amongst literally any and every character in any film or TV show ever made, regardless of medium or genre.
We got him back!
Fuck you, Wendy.
But I understand the hate she gets because as the de facto main female character, Wendy often becomes the show's stand-in for women in general. But there are a lot of people out there who will find her annoying or hate her simply because she's not one of the boys.
Boo, Wendy Testaburger, boo.
Viewers often misremember Wendy as nothing more than a caricature of a feminist buzzkill, but even from the very first season, Wendy has always been a lot more complicated and the furthest thing from a stereotype. In the season 2 episode Chef's Chocolate Salty Balls, when the Sundance Film Festival is moved to South Park, Wendy is excited to experience the glory of independent cinema, despite Cartman declaring that they're all black and white hippie movies about gay cowboys eating pudding. She tries like hell to immerse herself in the films, but even she can't help but admit at the end of the episode,
Sometimes I forget that even though a few independent films are great, most of them suck ass.
in Chef Goes Nanners, Wendy commits what many fans consider to be her ultimate crime. After Chef rightfully declares that the visibly racist South Park flag is racist, Stan and Kyle take the side of maintaining the town's history by not changing the flag, while Wendy understandably takes the side of changing the design. Much to her dismay, Cartman joins her side not because he cares about racism, but because he wants to beat Stan and Kyle in the debate. It's her biggest nightmare, but the more she spends time with him, she notices they actually have a lot of things in common. She starts developing sexual tension with Cartman, and at the advice of Bebe, kisses him in front of the entire town to get it out of her system.
There. Now, the main point we would like to make.
Stan, Kyle, and everyone really look on in horror, but this is exactly what she needed. She delivers her speech, the town's flag is changed, and with the sexual tension broken, she no longer has to agonize over her inexplicable attraction. After kissing Cartman, her feelings for him go away completely, but it's very obvious that Cartman still liked her at the end of the episode. He sighs and looks dejected as she leaves the town meeting with Stan, and it can be inferred that this might be one of the reasons he's been especially antagonistic towards her ever since.
As soon as it was over, all my feelings for you just vanished.
Oh, yeah, Yeah, totally.
Wendy exists as the antithesis of Cartman, which means that many of his fans are going to feel the same way about her as he does. They hate her, and I suspect that part of this is because they know deep down she's often right. But Wendy is no more or less problematic than any of the other characters, and has always followed the same ethos of South Park, where nothing and no one is above mockery, where everyday situations are exaggerated to the extreme in order to satirize. The difference is that American society tends to default to the boys' point of view, as does the show. Anything they deal with is viewed as a universal, relatable experience by much of the audience, while anything Wendy-centric is seen as women's issues.
Wendy, we're gonna get you, Wendy. Where are your boobs? We're gonna kill you.
This means that Wendy has to persevere in a way the majority of the other characters don't have to, because say what you will about how South Park has been viewed as insensitive or how people see the feminist aspects of Wendy as annoying, she is very often right. She's positioned as the girls' version of Stan as the de facto leader, but Wendy fulfills a nearly identical role as Kyle, who is typically accepted as the show's moral compass. They're both usually the first of their friend group to stand up for what's right, they're both noticeably more progressive-minded than their comrades, they're both unafraid to call out Cartman as the sociopath he is, but because she happens to be a girl, she has to put up with a lot more adversity as a result. When Stan or Kyle call out Cartman for being an asshole, it's seen as justified criticism or even playful ribbing between friends, but when Wendy does it, no matter how much Cartman deserves it, some instinctually view her as being a bitch.
I do not directly say she's a slut. Wendy Testaburger has proven time and time again that she will do anything to pleasure her vagina.
It's as though she has to take Cartman's abuse or risk being viewed as over-emotional. Their conflict reaches critical mass in Breast Cancer Show Ever, when Wendy finally beats the brakes off Cartman in front of everyone for making jokes about breast cancer. This is easily one of Wendy's best episodes, with an incredible performance from her current voice actress, April Stewart.
You don't get it, asshole! There is nothing you can do to stop this fight!
Man, this is one of the most cathartic episodes in the entire series because it's one of the few times where Cartman gets what's coming to him. Somehow, some fans still treat Cartman like a hero, but I don't know what you can do about that. Cartman, who got his ass handed to him by Wendy in front of the whole school and cried about his friends not finding him cool anymore, as they told him to his face that they've never thought he was cool. Cartman, who begged, bribed, manipulated her parents, and even ate his own underwear to try and get out of this fight. Yeah. Dude's a role model. Wendy's beatdown to me is one of the most satisfying moments in South Park history, establishing that when it comes to Wendy Testaburger, equal rights means equal fights too.
Wendy?
I'm finished!
Matt and Trey walk a fine line with Wendy because in addition to her role as the girl character, Stan has to like her, and we as the audience have to understand why Stan likes her so much as well. After all, Stan loves her enough not to kill her when she turns into a zombie during the first Halloween episode, even though she embarrassed him in front of the whole school by bailing on their couple's costume. He loves her enough to convince Elton John to play her the song he wrote for her at Chef Aid, and he loves her enough to spend the entirety of South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut pining after her and singing a song about his unrequited feelings towards her.
There's the girl that I like.
It isn't until the movie that Stan vomits on Wendy without fully grossing her out, a sign that this milestone in their relationship is extremely important to both of their character development. If Wendy is presented exclusively as the obnoxious, shrewd know-it-all that many fans see her as, there would be no investment in her and Stan's relationship. When Wendy dumps him for Tolkien in the Raisins episode, he's depressed enough to join the goth kids and start writing downright pathetic poetry. It's an overdramatic response to be sure, but to Stan, it's the most intense heartbreak he's ever experienced. Because for as much as Cartman antagonizes her, and as much as Stan likes to play it cool in front of the boys, he genuinely loves Wendy. She supports him, she listens to him, she motivates him to never give up, and she's constantly challenging the way Stan views the world around him. She makes him better, and he knows it, even if having a girlfriend is totally lame.
You want to hold hands with a girl, gay wad?
Wendy does of course have a history of jealousy, like the time she got breast implants because Bebe was getting more attention after growing breasts on her own and Bebe's boobs destroy society, micromanaging Stan's Facebook use and You Have Zero Friends, and of course, killing Miss Ellen.
Hi, Wendy. Seriously? You need to stop with this whole jealousy thing. Yeah, you're acting like a freak, Wendy. No, I'm not acting like a freak!
But that's pretty typical for a young relationship. Stan shows just as much, if not more, jealousy in their relationship and is pretty frequently neglectful of the relationship in general. He's threatened by Gregory in Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. He has one of his biggest fights with Kyle when he's paired with Wendy in Follow That Egg and can't handle seeing someone else play mom and dad with his girlfriend. He has a crisis when Bryden moves to town in Elementary School Musical, and when she does finally dump him in Raisins, Matt and Trey chose the needle drop of Cinderella's Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone to express Stan's pain. They're telling the audience that Stan messed up here, but people still blame her for the breakup.
Wendy breaks up with you.
Whoa, wait a minute. What did I do wrong? I haven't even talked to Wendy for weeks.
The joke here is that Stan was obviously ignoring and neglecting his relationship with Wendy. Stan taking Wendy for granted is even explored in the most recent season as well. He's scared of losing her when she expresses insecurity that he doesn't communicate with her as well as Clyde does with Bebe. Rather than actually listen to Wendy, he starts using ChatGPT to answer her text on his behalf. Wendy feels the most secure with Stan that she ever has and begins to confide in him things she's never shared across their entire relationship or really with anyone else.
I've been so scared for so long to tell anyone what happened to me when I was 6.
And even after learning the truth about the generative AI texts, she still forgives Stan. It definitely feels like any criticism thrown at Wendy for being a bad girlfriend is a serious double standard against a female character. But that doesn't mean Wendy herself isn't incapable of this kind of behavior either.
What kids were complaining about health and sustainability? What kids would care at all? The girls!
The girls?
The fucking girls!
Wendy is a self-proclaimed feminist, but life's circumstances frequently force her to question her values. Early seasons of South Park paint her with the standard hypocritical liberal brush that plagued many of the episodes before season 5, but Wendy is at her most interesting when exploring her relationships with the other girls at school, the societal pressures of womanhood, and navigating her own identity, because Wendy represents a truth about growing up socialized as a girl that is seldom talked about, the way society instills bias, and how hard it can be to unlearn and overcome those biases, even when you're a victim of them.
Slut.
Wendy slut-shamed Bebe for going through puberty and has been extremely critical of women she deems lesser than, like Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian, but none of her critiques exist in a vacuum. Like many kids, Wendy struggles with peer pressures, ones that can be particularly difficult to deal with as a young girl, so obviously she doesn't always get it right.
Sorry, Wendy. You're just not a whore. Get lost. Yeah.
One of her biggest conflicts takes place during Stupid Spoiled Whore video playset. In this one, her belief that glorifying socialites with sex tapes is a negative influence on young girls is in direct conflict with her desire to fit in with the other girls at school. She has a massive identity crisis and looks to Mr. Slave for advice, and her comfort with Mr. Garrison's sloppy sub is a great look at Wendy's nuanced approach to sexuality. Her issue is not that she's sex negative, it's that she's worried the girls in her class are too young for all of this, and given the fact that they're all in elementary school, she is correct.
The homosexual is right. From now on, baby, you're going to dress like a little girl.
But because Wendy is not immune from the influences of society, she's also not immune to groupthink. When Butters invades Heidi's sleepover in Margarine, she just stands by while the rest of the girls berate this poor new student. But it's Wendy who eventually stands up for her, rallying all the girls together to apologize and make things right. Even when she screws up, Wendy always makes it a priority to stick with the girls.
Nobody likes me.
Oh, geez, she's really upset. I feel terrible, you guys.
But at the same time, Wendy has no problem being the one to call people out when they're acting out of line. This is why when Stan comes to her after the girls publish a list naming Kyle the ugliest boy in school, and it makes him lose his mind, Wendy helps Stan investigate, even though they weren't a couple at the time.
How dare you take advantage of your position? I'm gonna tell Bebe and have you both disbarred from the list committee.
When she eventually confronts Bebe about the plan to manipulate the list, she's willing to get physical to stop her because she feels it's the right thing to do. Even if she doesn't get there right away, Wendy's evolution has gotten her to a place where she fights for true justice, even if it's difficult. Wendy is a true feminist. She's not interested in female supremacy. She's interested in equitable treatment of all gender identities. Her selflessness and Stan's newfound maturity bring them both to a place where they can rekindle their relationship again. The time apart was good for them, as evidenced by this.
It's been really great hanging out with you again. I feel like you've changed somehow, in a really awesome way.
But even still, Wendy is navigating a constantly shifting social landscape. The Hobbit sees Wendy desperately trying to push back against the way Photoshop celebrities on social media have irreversibly screwed up the way women perceive themselves and the way men think women are supposed to look in real life, sending Wendy on another one of her activist crusades. Let's be real, Wendy is right every step of the way in this episode, but her harsh approach to try and snap people out of it comes off as harmful, leading the whole school to conclude that she's just jelly and discredit anything she says.
Mr. Mackey, I was trying to show kids.
No excuses. You have a problem being jelly, Wendy.
It's equal parts infuriating and depressing watching Wendy's words be willfully misunderstood and taken in bad faith for an entire episode, knowing how true to life this can be. Women are often mislabeled as difficult, unprofessional, bitter, haters, or yes, even jelly. At the end of the episode, Wendy finally accepts defeat. She gives in to peer pressure and photoshops her own image. It is a really bleak ending, not only for Wendy as a character, but for what it says about our culture. South Park gives Wendy that space to accept and mourn what the world has become and doesn't judge her for following along as a means of social survival, a grace that most women are not extended in real life.
Oh my god. I don't know if I can go through with this.
And despite her shortcomings and often fraught relationships with her fellow girls, she ultimately values her solidarity with them above all else. During the height of skank hunt trolling, Wendy instigates a protest that turns into a mass breakup in response to the harassment the girls and their mothers have received online. Wendy has second thoughts, but is revived by the passions of her radicalized sisters. She joins the rest of the girls, and she dumps Stan, giving him a note that reads, "I can't fix you," breaking his heart again. This is a moment pulled straight from Lysistrata, an ancient Greek play about women banding together to end a war by denying all of the other men's sex unless they stop fighting. It's one of the most feminist plays ever written, and the show validates Wendy's feminist beliefs by modernizing this material and positioning her as the ringleader. South Park has been accused of being nothing more than offensive humor and juvenile punchlines for 25 years at least. But Wendy is some of the biggest proof that the show has evolved, as has Matt and Trey's approach to writing female characters. The initially shrill nature of her activism has grown into justified outrage, and her faults are not presented as a result of hypocrisy, but because Wendy is an elementary schooler still learning how to navigate a society that demonizes and dismisses her just for existing. She may be more mature than the rest of the class, but that doesn't mean she should be held to a higher standard. But because she's a girl, she is often held to a higher standard, and the show is better for not pretending that she's not treated differently because of her gender. That acknowledgement is not a reflection of an anti-feminist South Park fandom, nor is it a critique of Matt and Trey, it's just a confirmation of how society actually functions. Despite everything staked up against her, Wendy perseveres. She's been around since the very beginning, a vital pillar to the South Park series, and no amount of unjustified hatred is going to make her go away. Point blank, do not fuck with Wendy Testaburger. Folks, thanks again for tuning into another South Park character video. This one is written by my friend BJ Colangelo, and she did an incredible job. Please do yourself a favor, check out some of her other writing. Thanks again, and stay tuned for more. Peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.